As a Native woman living with HIV, I have had a lot of compassion, a lot of help, a lot of prayers. I think we have been able to skip by a lot of the stigma associated around HIV and AIDS. There's just not a lot of us. When you connect with another person who's from your tribe or from your region, there's something about it that just feels precious. And with our traditional ways and our spirituality, we understand that things like illness, it takes the entire tribe to help somebody to get better and to heal. And you don't get better by yourself. I decided to get tested for HIV after the breakup with my partner. It was nasty and ugly and horrible and violent. And one of the things that he said was, "I've got AIDS, so now so do you." I was telling my girlfriend about what he had said. And I said, he said this and that, and he said he had AIDS. And she said, "Well, why don't you go get tested? You need to go get tested." And I said, "No, I don't. I've only had 2 boyfriends. I don't need to get tested. That's something that happens in big cities. That's something that happens, isn't that something that is part of the gay community or the IV drug user community? How could that happen to me?" And she pushed and pushed and said, "You need to get tested." So I dragged myself down to the campus clinic and I told the nurse I wanted an HIV test. In '94, you had to have a blood draw, and they sent the blood off for 2 weeks, and you waited for your test results and then returned, and you could get those results in person. You can't get them over the phone. My nurse burst into tears, and then she said, "I've never had to tell anybody this, but you're HIV positive." And so what I told her was, it's okay. It's got to be a mistake. The laboratory accidentally switched my results with somebody else's. It's okay. I feel fine. I'm healthy. Just test me again. It took me 3 times for me to accept that this was my diagnosis. And it took me a lot longer to really accept that this was my fate. This was something that was happening to me, that I was 22 years old in college with HIV, and that I had picked a man who was willing to hide it from me and give it to me, and thought that I would probably just go downhill with him. The health department decided they needed to test my son because I had breastfed him. And that became the scariest 3 days of my entire life. I experienced so much fear and anger during those 3 days waiting for his test results. I knew that I was capable of killing someone at that point. So, but luckily, by the grace of God, his results came back and he was healthy. And then I knew that this was mine. This was something I needed to deal with. This was my war. But it didn't change the fact that I was still a mother. I still had obligations. I still had responsibilities. I couldn't just have any time to sit back and grieve and moan and be sorry for myself. I still had to take care of my son every day. After I discovered that Western medicine and a Western doctor didn't have many answers or much help, I needed to go to my culture. I needed to go to my elders and see if they could help me. And their response was very loving, very supportive, very embracing. They said, "Okay." So I had ceremonies run for me. They're very rigorous, very long, a lot of physical commitment in them. We still sit in teepees, and we have our own medicines, and we have our own songs. And they prayed for me, and they taught me to pray for myself. I didn't know how to pray for myself. I just wanted somebody to fix me. It was, "Please fix me. Please just give me the medicine and fix me, heal me." And they said, it doesn't work that way. You have to know how to ask for that from within. I finally got it. It was like a light bulb went off inside of me. And I really embraced this which lives inside me. It is like a companion that rides with me. It is a life that lives inside of me, and that it has come my direction for me, for communities, for humanity, to learn from. And at that moment, I stopped hating it. I stopped hating HIV. I stopped being afraid of it. I knew I was going to be okay. I was a college student, so on campus, because that was where I became infected, I felt a need to warn other women. I wanted them to know what was out there. And so this became public speaking. It became standing up in front of audiences wherever I was asked to go and talking about how I became infected, talking about how I thought that you could place your health in somebody else's hands and be taken care of. And that's a common misconception that a lot of women have. We have been raised or taught that to give yourself in that way is you're being a good woman. And what I needed other women to know is that that's no longer possible. We have horrifically high rates for our communities. Transmission rates can be second in the nation for an ethnic minority. Before I knew it, I was being asked to travel to other Native communities across the country. HIV education was null. There was nothing. There was no one out there doing what I was doing, and there were no Native faces. So it helped especially well in Native communities that I am Native American. They could relate. They could say, oh wow, okay, she's one of us. And to be able to say, this is how I got it, and this is what you need to know to protect yourself, to protect your community. So explaining HIV to my son was difficult, and I thought that I wanted to wait until he was old enough to understand. His grandmother on his paternal side decided to tell him at a very young age, and it was devastating for him. He was fearful that he was going to lose me. He knew at that time the timeline of the 2 to 5 years death sentence. And so he thought that when he turned 7, I was going to die on his birthday. So lots of hugs, lots of sitting on my lap, lots of I love yous, lots of holding him and trying to reassure him that I was going to be okay. But the day after he turned 7, he was like, Mom, you're still here. I'm like, yeah, I'm still here. I'm going to be here. And now he's 25. So now he thinks I'm just going to live forever. I was very lucky in the sense that I had a partner who said, I don't care how sick you are. If I get 5 months to be with you or 5 years to be with you, I love you for who you are. We have 2 daughters. Today my daughters are 16 and 14 and are completely unruly, wild teenage girls. All of my gray hair is because of my teenage girls. It has been a blessing.